everyone. I wanted to do a quick exercise with you from an upcoming webinar that I'm doing on Saturday, April 9th, 2022, which is coming up in a couple days from this video. The work is about overcoming the toxic family system and further separating ourselves from that system, as well as creating new values and working on our identity outside of that system. So one of the 6 or 7 exercises that I'm doing in that webinar in the worksheet is an exercise on what we actually value. So let's dive in. First, let's look at the toxic family values that you grew up with. My father considered himself a pretty good Catholic, but he behaved nothing like one. He modeled or wanted to look like he was modeling values for us as kids, when in reality, he just valued being superior to others and used his religion as a weapon. And that's not really about religion, that's about my dad. So in that example, there are values on what is said, like on, I don't have a piece of paper. What is the values that are said on paper, and then the actual real values that happen underneath it. Another example is we might be told as children to say what we mean and mean what we say. But then we see a parent model talking behind someone's back, or gossiping, or engaging in things like character assassination. So a lot of this stuff is around what is modeled to us as children from our parents. And the toxic family values tend to be rooted in things like, again, hypocrisy, things like might makes right, or just regurgitated mottos through the generations on how to be in the world, and I'm sure you probably get it. So let's look at some examples. This is from the upcoming worksheet from the webinar, and here's a list of examples of toxic family values. Think of what is said on paper versus the BS that happens underneath. And values are also in line with behaviors because they're almost interchangeable. So here goes. So examples of toxic family values. Number 1, I can use my power over my kids since they don't have power, which is convenient to me. Abuse of power. Number 2, it's okay to make fun of others behind their back. Modeling toxicity. Number 3, it's better to not be real with anybody. Modeling inauthenticity. Number 4, complaining and then refusing help is good because I get to make people feel bad. That's kind of a common one that goes around. Modeling passive aggression. Number 5, it's okay to overshare with my children and get sympathy from them. Toxic boundaries. Number 6, and these are all examples, I'm not saying that this is the thing. It's going to be unique to you. Number 6, shaming my kids in front of guests is entertaining and it sends a message. Using shame as a weapon. Number 7, giving kids everything, toys, permission, whatever, negates all of my neglect, which is an example of absolving parental responsibility. Number 8, they're just kids. They don't notice that I lie, that I cheat, or I steal, or I manipulate. Abusive perception, and that last one, abusive perception, is a top tier. It's really what I think is all childhood trauma is abusive perception. So that's the examples of toxic family values. So that's the example list. So what you do is you come up with a list of, say, 10 value-based behaviors and try to label them like I've done with like modeling in parentheses, like the things like passive aggression. This is also another processing tool that you can look at to identify some of your triggers in the present. Like if you had a boundary crossing mother who told you everything at way too young of an age, what happens to you when maybe a coworker wants a really hard and fast friendship too quick and overshares? That's an example of a trigger. Another one happens, like what happens when you're out and about and you see parents shame their children in public or shame them at all? What happens to you there? So that's what I mean by that. So if you're new to me or new to the channel, welcome. If you like this video, feel free to hit some buttons on the screen. You really can't mess with any of the buttons, especially the like button or the subscribe button, and subscribing to the channel greatly supports the wider community around childhood trauma recovery. And if these videos are helpful to you in your recovery, you can consider supporting the work that goes into these videos over at my Patreon. And in addition, you go to my website and check out some childhood trauma e-course work there, as well as sign up for the webinar that I mentioned, which is the little white ball up here will take you right to the information about the webinar that's coming up. That's a live event with me, followed up by a live Q&A, materials, and the worksheet that I mentioned. You can also get in touch with me in general through my website. You can connect with me through my Instagram, or you can connect with me at my TikTok. And I'll have all the links to the description and all that jazz in the description of this video. So now let's look at a list of identifying your values. You probably have them already kind of going on. You just really maybe haven't thought about them in context of your family, or maybe you haven't identified them. A clue is going to be that they're going to be drastically different from your family system if you're into healing and recovering from that system. And these are direct opposites of the list that I just gave. So here goes on that list. Now let's move on. So once you got that list, you're going to contrast it with your new values. And what I've done here is I've done the direct opposite of the list that I just gave. And when you do this, really, a clue is going to be how your values are probably going to be drastically different than the system you grew up in if you're in this path of healing and recovery. So examples of your new values, and again, direct opposite of the list I just gave in context. So number one, everyone has the right to have say and contribute. Otherwise, it's authoritarian. Power should be shared with kids. Number two, I don't resort to gossip and personal negativity. It's dirty. Number three, authenticity is freedom. It's intimacy and it's energy. Number four, I don't value victimhood or holding situations hostage. That's the I'm going to not ask for help and then shame everybody one. Number five, I value protecting children from adult business, and I only share with safe adults over time. Number six, I value private, direct conversations that are respectful. Number seven, I value not avoiding hard conversations. Number eight, I value being honest and transparent. Part of overcoming the toxic family system, which is the main focus of the webinar, is about stepping outside of this system and over time building up to the person that you want to be in the world. We tend to just know ourselves as a traumatized self. That's just like what happened to us. That's not who we are. And we're not so connected with the real person underneath and being empowered in that, which is what the webinar is about. So celebrate your values, contrast them. They're so different. For example, an example in my own life is my parents modeled a power struggle, and they modeled treating each other like garbage. And through the work that I've done, I'm able, and I really love this fact, that I don't bring that same modeling into my parenting or my marriage. Probably the greatest thing going on in my life is leaving that family system and building the life that I wanted, but I got a lot of help through recovery and therapy. So that's really kind of like what I wanted to share about what that means. In that example, our parents provide the blueprint for what we think a marriage is kind of going to be like. It's deep in there. We don't always create that. I'm not saying we're just destined to become them. We more try to do our best to avoid it, but even that can become dysfunctional. So that's what I mean about value. So I hope that this little quick video was helpful to you, and as always, may you be filled with loving kindness, may you be well, may you be peaceful and at ease, and may you be joyous. And I hope to see you. Bye-bye.